Hello everyone, I'm Vikramaditya and welcome to Jade Tech. Now, what exactly is SAP Clean Core? We have been hearing about Clean Core from quite some time now, but not very clear about what exactly is the concept of SAP Clean Core. Let me put it in a very simple words and try to explain you about this Clean Core. So all these days we were doing some developments. Now what used to happen all these days is, let's say we have 70 to 80% of the functionalities that the customer needs are already there in the SAP standard software, and we used to do that 20 to 30% of the customization within that particular system. Now what does Clean Core project is? Clean Core methodology says that you go ahead and do these all developments that you are doing in the extensibility and not the actual server. So we are not going to do any modifications or any new developments in the SAP S4 HANA system. Instead of that, we are going to do it in as an extensibility in the extension. So that's the reason the moment we understand about SAP Clean Core, we need to have a deeper knowledge on what exactly is extensibility. So extensibility is the functionality added to standard software which extends it to address organizational needs that are not met by the standard ones. So we're going to do this customization of the programs. We have moved that concept into extensibility. So please remember that. So we're going to keep this as zero modification software, the SAP S4 HANA, and then we're going to add these new functionalities as a part of extensibility. And where do we do this extensibility? As you might be already knowing, or you can just refer to my past videos on BTP. We're going to do it on the BTP platform. So let's look more deeper into that now. We all used to do the classical extensibilities like classic ABAP custom development in SAP ECC. It allows us to use classical development tools and techniques like, for example, like the transaction is CAT, which we all know, and Eclipse IDE, baddies, and so on, wherein we can do our own developments or enhance the existing developments. Very rich features and functions, extremely flexible, and even allows you to modify SAP code itself. But coming to the real world, this was the world before cloud. And this approach was in most respects fairly straightforward and to implement for both SAP and the customer. In some respects, it was familiar to a contract. There were certain things that SAP provided and certain steps and procedures that customers followed. Imagine a simple scenario where a screen in a SAP application contains two fields, revenue and cost. It would not be too presumptuous to guess that an end user would request an additional field to be added to that display. So let's assume that they did so by requesting a new field to display profit. So to the existing revenue and cost fields, now we have to add the field called profit as per the business requirement. And let's assume that they did so by requesting a new field to display the profit. And then how do we do that? Let's assume that the profit would be calculated not only using revenue and cost, but also a special numerical factor used by the customer. So since this factor is customer specific, there isn't a field to hold it in any of the underlying database that the application is using. So to implement this type of scenario, SAP would provide that where when we used to use the exits or business add-ins or BTEs, business transaction events. So these exits would be located at multiple layers through the stack. Let's look at those layers one by one, starting with the lowest layer, the data layer. Right? In our simple scenarios, a developer would use a table append at the database layer. We have the table append, right? So now we have got this table append, which we used to do at the data layer, and then we have got this at the application layer. So we have got this application layer wherein we are going to go ahead and add this at the application layer. We are going to do the function exits. So we used to have the function exists, right? So going back to the table, Appen effectively provided customers with a universal exit concept to adjust the definitions of any provided SAP table to meet their unique business requirements. So the next stack layer that needed an exit to be provided by SAP would be the highest, the visual layer. It is here that the new field or the profit field, which in our example is our simple scenario, so would be visualized. So visual layer exists consisted mainly of two types: the screen exits and the menu exits. In our simple scenario, a developer would utilize a screen exit to add the new field to the screen, and possibly a menu exit to add a new command, which upon being selected by the end user would perform the calculations of the profit. This is what used to happen. So let me just show it on the screen. Real representation of what we have discussed just now. In the screen, revenue and cost happen to be the standard ones in the SAP standard screen, and profit is what is expected from the business, which we need to add. So we were discussing about the screen exits and menu exits, right? So now the final stack layer that needed an exit would in some ways be the most important. So this is because a new field added to the data layer of the stack and seen at the visual layer of the stack could contain a value that would need to be potentially read, used, updated, and maybe even deleted from time to time. So these operations would need to be implemented using the ABAP code, right? So we need to have an ABAP code to do all this stuff in the backend. So now those code exists that were implemented at the middle. I mean, like the bottom layer would be the database table which we have enhanced and added this field, and the screen where you are actually adding it on the screen so that it will be seeing that, but the middle one happens to be the most important, where you are going to add the code, and the data and the UI were created by SAP. So again, in our simple scenario, a developer would first confirm that a code exists, or so what I mean to say is a customer exit exists or a code exit exists to perform any needed operations on the field, and then the exit would be implemented with the necessary customer specific code, right? So as a result, the customer would have the standard functionality delivered by an application or enhanced with the additional functionality they decide. So we are going to add that functionality to the existing code. So one important aspect of this approach was that the entire process of utilizing exits was managed by a defined system process. So exits had to be activated. The specific implementation of the exit had to pass all the relevant syntax and consistency tests. So development of exits happened in a dedicated development system and were tested in a testing system wherein we all know the system landscape, right? So in the development server will develop it, and the testing server will be moving and testing it, and then it will be released to the end user in the production system. So another important aspect of this approach was that, generally speaking, the development of exits could utilize an SAP object in the system without any restriction. For example, like any SAP table could be used for reading and writing records. Any SAP function module could be called. So any SAP class, and of course the methods inside that class could be used. So one final and most important point is that if a customer determined that no exit was available or was not unusable, they could exercise the following two choices. So perform a modification of SAP objects, the SAP standard objects, in a manner to achieve the desired functionality, or copy SAP objects and the new object would be customer owned, and thus we could have changed that accordingly, right? These are the two approaches that we used to always follow. So as mentioned earlier, a system delivered that features the benefit of customer adjustments as a part of its design has to balance certain benefits and certain costs as well. In other words, when the time comes to apply patches or to upgrade the system, any extensions implemented could theoretically become a problem, because the new or updated code from our developers or the software vendor could make an extension unstable or even unnecessary. So testing would be necessary to ensure that this was not the case. Nevertheless, even taking that into account, the costs of managing and testing processes were reasonable against the benefits and flexibility of extensions. So generally speaking, customer adjustments done as the implementation of exits were less problematic on upgrades, as the existence of exits was known by SAP and could be accounted for, like modifications of SAP objects, and copies of SAP objects could potentially be much more problematic and had to be tested thoroughly after a patch was applied to and upgraded to any upgrade took place. So this approach has sustained SAP and customers for many decades. From SAP R by 3 in all its versions up to through the SAP Business Suite, through several service packs and enhancement packs. So, however, one reason that this approach has been successful was that systems were almost always located in customer data centers, and thus were 100% maintained by the customers themselves. And what one customer was doing is in their system was completely separate from what other customers were doing in their system. So, however, a game changer occurred. As we all know, that change was the evolution of SAP ERP to SAP S4 HANA suite. So now comes the clean core concept. Let's look into the clean core concept now. In your mind, we'll get back to there where we have discussed about the exits. Now, just consider the concept of SAP S4 HANA Cloud. Okay, so we are going in parallel and we are going to patch up both things. So please be careful on that. First, we discussed about the exits. Now we're discussing about the cloud, S4 HANA Cloud. And so where does clean core come into picture is what we are going to understand from these two. So the derivative goes after a few minutes. So SAP S4 HANA runs in the cloud, and a cloud product is different. So all customers use the same base code line and changes are applied to all customers simultaneously. I mean to say, whenever there is an upgrade or new patch being applied. So as a result, there is no realistic way to allow each individual customer to implement enhancements. So in the same way that they could in earlier on-premise environments, they could have done that. So customer enhancements are still necessary, but the rules and processes by which they are done have to be completely rethought and redesigned for the SAP cloud. So enter another challenge of SAP, like the previous challenges. This one has also been embraced by SAP. So the solution is to design an extension philosophy distinctively oriented for the cloud. So enter a new term, clean core. This is where clean core comes into. And let's break it down. So what exactly is clean core? What is the core? See, the core describes the main aspects of SAP S4 HANA Cloud. So you can see on the right side, this core happens to be the actual system. And these aspects can be thought of as dimensions or components, and they are oriented around the following. So processes, the series of actions or steps taken within SAP S4 HANA Cloud that cover the end-to-end experience of delivering an outcome or accomplishing a result. So that's about the process. Now, coming to data. The data contained within and used by SAP S4 HANA Cloud processes, commonly categorized as configuration, master and transactional configurations, master and transactional data update and all. Then we have got the integration. So first we talk about processes, second we are talking about the data, and third we are talking about the integration. So here we talked about the processes, data, and then integration. So integration connecting of SAP S4 HANA Cloud to other solutions for the purpose of sending and receiving data to support process execution. Operations, necessary maintenance activities performed within SAP S4 HANA cloud, such as release management, background job management, authorization management, monitoring and alerting. Then we have got something called extensibility. So functionality added to SAP S/4HANA Cloud that extends it to address additional needs that are not met by the SAP standard. Remember, the 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 enhancements or the customization that we were doing in the R3 system or S/4HANA system in the past has now moved to a concept here called extensibility, which is very important. This is where we are getting into now. So clean means that for each of the previously mentioned aspects, the necessary approach is taken for it to be up to date and cloud compliant, optimized and perfected depending on the aspect in the question. Remember, the SAP S/4HANA Cloud, if it is implemented on your system, please take it for granted that by default it is clean code. So I'll get back to that more in detail at a later point of time, but just keep this in your mind that your SAP S/4HANA Cloud system is by default clean core. Okay, now let's get back to this one. Now, what is clean core? So clean core is both a concept and an approach to achieve a modern, flexible and cloud compliant SAP S/4HANA Cloud. Clean core is achieved by integration and extending SAP S/4HANA Cloud in such a way that it is cloud compliant with optimal master data quality and perfected business process governance. With a clean core, customers experience better maintainability along with lower total cost of ownership, the TCO, for SAP S/4HANA Cloud. So what are the benefits of a clean core? So now in the clean core, we're going to develop we're going to keep the entire system clean, the core will be clean, and then we are going to add the additional features using extensibility concept. That's what we're going to discuss more in detail in the coming session. So benefits of clean core happens to be ease of upgrade. You can easily upgrade and make upgrades not non-events. So from a customer code point of view, so there will not be any restriction, that there will not be any dependency, because all these days, since we were doing all the enhancements and customization within the system, it used to be a challenge when we are upgrading it to next version. But now that we are keeping this entire core as clean, so we can just upgrade this simply, and the extensibilities will be just as a patch to this. So we are going to attach to that. So fast consumption of innovation, always on top of innovation technologies, and end-to-end system security, continuity and stability, and the total cost of ownership, efficient use of infrastructure and licenses, permanent traceability in all areas of code. So the benefits for partners are like future-proof and cloud-ready solutions, promoting fit to standard compliance when clean core modular innovations have taken place, reduction of complexity with simplified consumption of out-of-the-box SAP solutions. So the clean core extensibility is what we are going to talk about, and we're going to discuss about the clean core extensibility. So what are the clean core extensibility that we're going to have? Detailed picture of getting to a clean core, wherein we all used to do all the in-app extensibilities all these days, and we had this classic extensibility. Now we have got all the extensibilities moved to the side-by-side extensibility, wherein we are going to consider doing all these things at the BTP level. So this S/4HANA system will remain clean. Now, since this a learning journey deals primarily with the extension aspects of clean core, so this is the focus of our discussion. The extensibility happens to be the focus. So clean core extensibility can be summarized as an extension methodology where extensions are kept strictly separate from the SAP application. So we are not going to touch or do anything at the core level, and we're going to do all the developments on the right side, the enhancements. And now, if you notice the first part, extension methodology, customers can breathe a sigh of relief. Extensions are not going away. So, but notice the second and third parts also. So the customer extension is kept strictly separate from SAP's baseline, and also extension must use officially defined points that are upgrade stable. So it is the upgrade part that is so important. So cloud system availability is not just a wish list for customers, it is non-negotiable demand. So there must be no chance that a system becomes unavailable simply because a new version of the software is released, right? So the existence of customer extensions does not alter their expectations. So the clean core extensibility is how the balance between software flexibility within customer adjustments and system stability and availability in the cloud world is achieved. So it results not only in faster software developed deployment, but also easier adoption of software changes. So since the core starts off clean and is kept that way using non-disruptive regular scheduled upgrades, so the concept of clean core extensibility can be distilled in the framework of best practices that customers adopt in implementing SAP S/4HANA Cloud. So adapting a policy of zero modifications, that's the point first, point number one. Point number two is the eliminating enhancements that are redundant to standard code and functionality, and also eliminate copies of SAP objects. Using released APIs only, upgrade stable interfaces, leveraging the key user in-app extensibilities of SAP S/4HANA Cloud to its full extent, employing the capabilities and services offered by SAP Business Technology Platform to build larger extension applications, using SAP Integration Suite. These are the things that we have. So throughout this course, we are going to explore these best practices. However, there are two important points to note. The first is that because there are two cloud deployments possibilities that customers can choose from based on their unique needs, as well as a third traditional on-premise based development options. The specific options, so I'm talking about this classical extensibility, the in-app extensibility, and the side-by-side extensibility. These are the three extensibilities available to the customer. So basically, the term S/4HANA Cloud is an umbrella term that refers to the cloud deployment possibilities, which are S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition and S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. So the term S/4HANA refers to the on-premise deployment option. So in distinctions must be made between SAP S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition and SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. So the material will explicitly state so. So unless otherwise stated, assume that the features relevant to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition, but not to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition. So apply to the on-premise developments deployments also. So the second point is that the existing SAP ERP customers must choose which migration approach to use when transitioning to any of the possible deployment options. So the new implementation, new SAP S/4HANA Cloud is provisioned for a new SAP S/4HANA system is installed. System conversion, so an existing SAP ERP system is migrated to either SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition or on-premise system. Then we have got the landscape transformation, a hybrid of the first two approaches. So the intersection of these two choices affects the specific approach and steps that a customer experiences on their journey to migrate to SAP S/4HANA Cloud. So how do we actually do the transitioning to SAP S/4HANA Cloud is what we're going to discuss, and it's going to be very interesting. But then if you are interested to learn SAP S/4HANA hands-on, and you're going to be on the top of all and ahead of everyone in the SAP world, then you can contact me in the details email ID described in the description of this video, and let's get started with one-to-one training or live trainings. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye. And please do not forget to subscribe to our channel. If you have already subscribed, thank you very much, and please do share this video to your friends as well. Have a great day.